All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into something, well, a little uncomfortable. Hypocrisy.
It's a topic that's, well, everywhere, really.
Yeah, and you sent over all this material. Classic religious texts, observations about society today. I gotta say, it's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it can be a bit
The
overwhelming.
sheer depth of it, right?
Yeah, hypocrisy. It's not just like, oh, it's saying one thing and doing another.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
way more than that.
It's deeper.
It goes deeper, like intentions, appearances, the impact actions have on, the whole community.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It is. And even the definition the source material uses describes a hypocrite as anyone who gives rise to confusion and corruption.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
It's not just about being inconsistent. It's deliberate. That deception. It's about how it affects everyone else around them.
The ripple effect.
Exactly. Think about it. One person's hypocrisy, it can just erode trust, create chaos within a whole group. And actually, the source material, it's a collection of Islamic teachings called the Hadith. It outlines four key signs of hypocrisy.
Okay, I'm ready. What are they?
Let's see. There's betraying trust, lying, breaking covenants, and then how you behave in arguments.
Okay, yeah, I can see how those fit into that whole confusion and corruption idea.
Oh, absolutely.
But can we break those down a bit more?
Yeah, sure. Let's take betraying trust, for instance.
Yeah.
Just that one act, it can just completely shatter the foundation of a relationship.
Oh, for sure.
Or even a whole community. When you can't rely on what someone says or what they do, it creates suspicion, doubt, and ultimately, a breakdown in that social order.
Totally. And lying, that kind of goes hand in hand with that, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure.
It's that intentional deception, that chipping away at trust.
Precisely. And then when you add breaking covenants or agreements to the mix, oh boy, it gets more complex.
Yeah, because it's not just like a casual promise.
No, not at all. These are commitments, right?
Uh-huh.
The glue that holds a group together.
Right.
To break one, it's a disregard for the well-being of that whole community.
And says something about your priorities.
Putting self-interest above those shared values.
And then there's that last one, behaving badly in arguments. That one, at first, it didn't seem as serious to me. But now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, how we act in disagreements, it really does reveal a lot, doesn't it?
It does. If someone, resorts to personal attacks, manipulation, or even refuses to listen to other points of view, it says something.
Yeah, like they're not really interested in dialogue.
No, more interested in winning than actual understanding.
Yeah.
And that can be, well, toxic,
Yeah, toxic. Resolving conflict becomes near impossible.
Exactly.
So we've got these 4 big warning signs, but then the source material just throws this massive list at us. Additional characteristics.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost overwhelming, like 75 different ways to be a hypocrite. Really?
I know, right? It's a lot to take in at first glance.
Yeah.
But we don't have to go through all 75.
Oh, thank goodness.
We can group these, into themes.
Okay, that's a relief. So what kind of themes are we talking about here?
Well, one major theme is deception and self-interest.
Okay.
So this cluster, it includes things like seeking power among those who deny the faith, being inconsistent between your words and actions, boasting about wealth, and ascribing partners to Allah.
Hold on. Can we pause on that last one for a sec? I think, for those who aren't familiar with Islamic teachings, it might be helpful to explain why ascribing partners to Allah is considered hypocritical.
Yeah, you're right. In Islam, believing in the oneness of God, it's fundamental. So to ascribe partners to Allah, it directly contradicts that. But this idea, it goes beyond just religion,
Oh.
It's about putting other things first, wealth, power, fame, above, the values you say you care about.
Yeah. So like saying you value honesty, but then, I don't know, cheating on your taxes, or caring about the environment, but using like tons of single-use plastic.
Exactly. It's that mismatch between words and actions. That screams hypocrisy.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got that theme, deception and self-interest. What else is in this this messy room of hypocrisy?
Let's see. Another theme is a lack of true faith or submission.
Okay.
Now, this one sounds, specific to religion, but hear me out.
Okay, I'm listening.
So things like following some messengers, but not others, not really grasping the Quran, remembering Allah only sometimes,
Okay.
and feeling no responsibility towards, divine verses. It all falls under this.
I think I see where you're going with this. Even outside of religion, it's like claiming to believe in something, but not really living it out.
Exactly. It's about the disconnect between what you say and what you really believe, deep down. Like someone advocating for social justice, but never actually doing anything to support the cause.
Yeah. Or claiming to be a feminist, but, still perpetuating harmful gender stereotypes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that saying, practice what you preach.
Your actions got to match your words.
Yeah. Otherwise, how can anyone take your beliefs seriously?
Right. It's about being genuine.
And when they don't, it creates that confusion and distrust.
Yeah. Makes people question your motives.
Yeah.
Okay, so hypocrisy from self-interest and lack of, true conviction. What's the next layer of this hypocrisy onion?
Well, this one's about the impact on others, the negative impact.
Yeah.
Things like slandering the faithful, whispering secrets, mocking believers, being argumentative and aggressive, and even trying to turn people away from, the path of Allah.
Wow, that's a lot of negativity.
It is. And it's like a poison, it spreads.
Yeah.
When people focus on their own selfish desires and do harmful things, it creates distrust and divides people.
Makes it hard to have any kind of community.
Exactly. And it makes me think about the source material's mention of politicians.
Oh, yeah, politicians. Almost a cliche at this point.
I know, right?
But it's hard to argue. They often say one thing to get elected and then do something completely different once they're in office.
Yeah, it's true. They're easy targets when we talk about hypocrisy. But what's important is to see how these same patterns, how they play out in our own lives, beyond just politics or religion.
That's a good point. It's easy to call out hypocrisy in others,
Yeah.
But are we willing to see it in ourselves?
Exactly.
There's even a hadith about seeking refuge from hypocrisy, which makes me think maybe it's something we all struggle with.
It really does make you think, doesn't it? That hadith about seeking refuge from hypocrisy.
It does, yeah.
It reminds us that this isn't just about, pointing fingers at other people.
Right.
It's about looking at ourselves, acknowledging that, well, we all have that capacity for hypocrisy.
Totally. It's like that saying, you see the speck in your brother's eye, but ignore the log in your own.
Oh, that's a good one. We can all have those moments, right? Where our actions and our values, they don't quite line up.
Absolutely.
But, recognizing that's the first step to actually combating it.
Mm-hmm. So how do we do that?
Well, I think it starts with asking ourselves some tough questions.
Like what?
Like, am I being authentic?
Okay.
Are my actions really matching my words? Am I, contributing to that confusion and corruption that the Hadith talks about?
Those are some pretty uncomfortable questions to think about.
Oh, they are. It's definitely easier to just focus on what we see out there in the world.
Right. Point the finger at someone else.
Exactly. But that discomfort, that's actually a good sign.
How so?
It means we're actually engaging in self-reflection.
Yeah.
Challenging ourselves to be better. And remember, we're not aiming for perfection here.
No.
We're all works in progress.
Right. So when we think back to those 75 characteristics of hypocrisy, it's not about judging other people, is it?
No, not at all. It's more like a mirror.
Oh, I like that.
To hold up to ourselves.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what are some ways we can actually use this to reflect on ourselves?
Well, we can ask ourselves, where do I see maybe just shades of these behaviors in my own life?
Mm-hmm.
Am I, seeking approval instead of just staying true to what I believe?
It's tough to admit to those kinds of things.
Oh, it is. But that's where growth happens.
Right. It's about being honest with ourselves.
Exactly. And it's not about beating ourselves up. It's about using that awareness to actually, fuel positive change.
Yeah, okay, I get that. So it's not about dwelling on the negative. It's about using it to move forward.
Right. It's about saying, okay, I see this in myself. How can I, do better?
What steps can I take to align my actions with my values more consistently?
You got it.
I like that. It's like that quote, awareness is the first step to change.
It is. Once we, recognize those tendencies, we can actually start making different choices.
So being more mindful?
Mindful of our words, our actions, making sure they actually line up with our core beliefs and having the courage to apologize when we realize we've messed up.
So this isn't just about avoiding being a hypocrite. It's about actively cultivating the opposite of hypocrisy.
You got it. Choosing honesty over, deception, humility over arrogance, integrity over convenience.
Okay, I see that. Now, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about hypocrisy causing this ripple effect, of distrust and division.
Oh, yeah.
And the source material highlights several characteristics related to negative speech and actions towards others, slandering, gossiping, and mocking.
Right. Those behaviors, they're especially damaging.
Why is that?
Well, because you're directly harming other people. You know, when we do those things, we're contributing to a culture of negativity, judgment, and mistrust. And that, like we've been talking about, that lack of trust, it can have some serious consequences.
It can damage relationships, communities, even whole societies.
Exactly. It's like those behaviors just chip away at the fabric of our social connections.
And once that fabric frays too much, it can be really hard to repair.
Yeah, it can. Hypocrisy creates a climate where it's really tough to believe in anything or anyone.
Yeah.
It breeds cynicism, apathy, makes it really hard to, work together towards any kind of common goal.
You know, it's interesting. Even though the source material we're looking at, it's rooted in these religious teachings, so much of what we're talking about feels relevant to anyone.
Right.
It doesn't matter what your faith is or your background.
Exactly.
We all encounter hypocrisy in our lives.
We do, whether it's in our relationships, at work, or even just, scrolling through social media. You've hit on a really important point.
Oh, have I?
You have.
Yeah.
While the source material, it uses, specific terms and examples from Islam, the main ideas, the insights about hypocrisy, they're universal, right? Hypocrisy, it's about that disconnect between what we say and what we actually do, putting our own needs above, genuine connection and integrity. And that's a challenge we all face, no matter what we believe.
It's a human thing.
It is. And maybe that's why this topic is so uncomfortable. Makes us face those parts of ourselves that we'd rather not,
Yeah, the parts we keep hidden.
But that discomfort, it could be a necessary part of the process.
You think so?
I do. It's a sign that we're willing to, to face those shortcomings and strive for something better.
So it's like that idea that growth happens outside of our comfort zone.
Exactly. And that's where forgiveness comes in.
Forgiveness.
Yeah. We've talked about self-reflection, taking responsibility for our actions. But we also need to, forgive ourselves and offer that same grace to others.
That's a really important point, because if we're always beating ourselves up or holding everyone to this impossible standard, it's like impossible to move forward.
Exactly. Forgiveness, it allows us to acknowledge those mistakes, learn from them, and then, move on. It's realizing we're all human. We all make mistakes, and we can all grow and change.
Progress, not perfection.
That's it. We're not going to, get rid of hypocrisy overnight. It's a process.
Yeah.
Self-awareness, being intentional, and yes, forgiving ourselves and others.
This whole conversation, it makes me think about how important education is.
Oh, absolutely.
And critical thinking.
Those are key, for sure.
If we really want to create a society that's genuine and just,
we have to give people the tools to think for themselves,
To see the truth.
Yeah. To see the truth, to spot manipulation, to question authority.
Because if information is controlled and people are silenced, that's where hypocrisy thrives, right?
It does. It does. It allows those in power to manipulate and exploit others without any consequences.
Okay, so we've talked about recognizing hypocrisy, addressing it in ourselves and others. But before we wrap up, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about the positive qualities we should be focusing on to counteract hypocrisy.
I like that. It's not enough to just avoid being hypocritical.
Right.
We need to actually cultivate those things that promote authenticity, integrity, and compassion.
So instead of saying don't be a hypocrite, we're saying strive to be an authentic, genuine, and compassionate human being.
Exactly. And all those qualities, they're connected,
Okay.
When we're living authentically, we're more likely to, act with integrity. And when we act with integrity, we're more likely to be kind and understanding towards others.
It creates a ripple effect.
Yes, it does. A positive one. And it makes me think about those characteristics we discussed earlier, the, negative ones.
Yeah.
What if we flip them, each one, turn them into, their positive counterpart?
Like what?
Well, instead of seeking power among deniers, we focus on empowering those who are marginalized.
Okay.
Instead of betraying trust, we make an effort to be a reliable, dependable friend, someone people can count on.
I love that. It's like a blueprint
Right.
for authentic living.
It is a roadmap for growth.
And it's not just about checking things off a list.
No, it's about truly living by those values.
Yeah.
Even when it's hard, even when no one's watching.
It's about that inner feeling,
Yeah.
knowing you're walking the walk.
Yes, exactly. And it's not just about how good it makes us feel. Think about what it would do for the world if everyone embraced this.
Like a collective shift towards authenticity.
Yeah. If more and more people made a conscious effort to be honest, act with integrity, treat each other with kindness, it would transform things, relationships, communities, even our political systems.
That's a powerful thought. If we raise the bar, everyone benefits.
I do. And it all starts with each of us. Making that choice to embody these values,
Right.
recognizing that our actions, they matter.
I think that's a perfect place to wrap up this part of our deep dive. So we've really explored a lot in this deep dive. We've talked about what hypocrisy is, how it plays out in the real world, and what we can do about it.
Yeah, it's been quite the conversation. And I think, one of the biggest takeaways is that, well, fighting hypocrisy isn't just about avoiding bad behavior.
Right.
It's about actually building up, cultivating positive qualities, authenticity, integrity, and compassion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about making that conscious choice, to embody those values in every part of our lives.
In our relationships, our work, how we interact with our community, even online.
Everywhere, right.
Yeah.
And those efforts, even small ones, they can make a difference.
Oh, they do. When we choose to, act with authenticity and integrity, it can inspire others to do the same.
It's contagious. It's like, be the change you wish to see in the world.
Exactly. We can't just sit around and wait for other people to create a more genuine and compassionate society.
We have to be that change.
We do. And it starts with recognizing that, we all have the potential for both hypocrisy and authenticity.
Right. It's about being mindful of our choices, being honest when we mess up, and, always trying to live in a way that matches our values. It can be so easy to get bogged down in the negativity of all this, but I really appreciate how you're challenging us to focus on the positive side.
Yeah.
It's like flipping the script.
How?
Instead of saying, don't be a hypocrite, we're saying, okay, what do we actually want to be?
Exactly. And the source material, the Hadith, it actually gives us a good place to start. Remember all those characteristics of hypocrisy?
Yeah, 75 of them.
I know, right? So imagine if we, took each one of those and consciously flipped it.
What do you mean?
Well, like instead of, seeking power among those who deny the faith, we focus on building understanding, with those who see things differently.
Okay.
Instead of betraying trust, we prioritize being a reliable friend, someone whose word really means something.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
It's like a blueprint for how to live authentically.
It is a roadmap for personal growth.
And it's not just about checking things off a list. It's about that deep down commitment.
Exactly. To living by those values, even when it's hard, even when nobody's watching.
It's about that inner feeling of knowing you're doing the right thing.
Exactly. And it's not just about feeling good. Think about the impact this could have on society if more and more people embraced that.
A collective shift towards authenticity.
Yeah. Imagine if we all made that effort to be honest, to act with integrity, to be kind to one another.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is. And it all starts with each one of us making that choice,
Recognizing that our actions have power.
They do. They really do.
Well, this deep dive has been incredibly insightful.
It has.
We've explored all the ins and outs of hypocrisy, how it affects us, and, most importantly, how we can create positive change by choosing authenticity.
It's been a great conversation. I hope it's given our listeners some things to think about, to reflect on their own choices, and, to embrace that journey towards a more authentic, meaningful life.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, the world needs your genuine self. Don't be afraid to let that shine through.
I love that. To all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of hypocrisy. And remember, it's a journey, but it's one worth taking.